Okay, so it's Pride the weekend just gone. It was London Pride. That does sound. I think there is. Isn't there a bitter like an IPA called that London Pride as well?
Yeah,
which is kind of ironic. The London would be the original Pride in this country, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but we've had years and years of growth there. We've had the Pride flag, of course, which has attracted more stripes than a US general. More colours has led to more sponsorship. I remember I used to have a joke about like the acronym that went to LGBT, and I had literally, Scott, a fucking joke about that being a sandwich at Marks and Spencer's, like bacon, guacamole, lettuce, and tomato, and that actually happened. That did happen.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it became a sandwich briefly, the Pride sandwich at Marks and Spencer's. But there was this story on the BBC, and the journalist job title did make me laugh. His name's Josh Parry, a very good article, but he's the LGBT and identity reporter for the BBC, because I guess they couldn't say woke correspondent. And he was talking.
They didn't have to, really, did they?
There's less sponsorship this year, less corporate sponsorship. It's the first year in many years that it's gone down, and there's less volunteers. So, as our man on the scene, Scott, although I'm not saying for 1 second that you were there, you got any theories as to why that's happened this year?
Well, I think the DEI support is down because of what Trump said a few months ago, and I think companies have realized they don't really need to. So, where they weren't committed with their souls, they just kind of walked away from these events. They're probably quite expensive for them to sponsor. And I think also they feel like they've won the war. They've got the gays on their side. They don't need to do it anymore. You know, in a way, I think they're right. Well, I think they are right, not just in a way, I think they are. You know, years ago, when the sponsorships began at Gay Pride in San Francisco, I say Gay Pride because I'm old, it's about 25 years ago, a lot of the gays were a bit alarmed when Budweiser and Coors, all of them started showing up, putting up big banners. And we liked it. We liked the attention, but we also realized it was going to commercialize an event which had seemed much more grassroots previously. And it did commercialize it. They started charging people to get in. Alcohol became much more expensive. You know, more famous names are on the main stage. Everything, the price of everything went up, and at the cost, really, of excluding certain parts of the community. And I think that's happened in London to a certain extent. But I think the Pride events become extremely middle class, and I think the whole identity politics thing has turned away sponsors. But gay men and gay women knew at the beginning that if we were going to get some sort of equality, whatever that meant at the time, which really what we were looking for was medical coverage in the US, because so many people were dying, that we could not tell people that their lives were going to change. We told people when I worked at ACT UP, look, this is not going to affect your mainstream life at all. It's just going to make our lives better. We never brought up their children. You never bring up people's kids, ever, if you're trying to make a political, change, unless it involves improving the lives of children. What's happening now with the ideology among some of the gay community is that we're asking people to change their dialogue, the way they speak, the way they educate their children, everything they do when they're around us. And that has made some sponsorships very uncomfortable. They don't want to be associated with that. A lot of gay men I know don't want to be associated with it either.
Well, interestingly, this reduction, I think what you're saying about corporate sponsorship, DEI, maybe they've made their point, all of that stuff stacks up. With volunteering, that's sort of interesting because that suggests this isn't to do with money. This is about people's willingness to be involved from the community. How do you, you can't answer for everyone, but in terms of it becoming a broader social justice movement, because obviously you've had the inclusion of trans quite a while ago, then Black Lives Matter. Gay sort of became queer. First up, I get a sense I know the answer to this. Are you gay or queer? Are you? It feels so weird for me to ask because that sounds like something you'd say in the 80s when you were bullying someone. You gay or queer?
Well, queer is a bit of a trigger word for some of my age because it's that word they whispered in Europe right before they gay bashed you. In the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, but I grew up at that time too, so I am so reluctant to use that word because. Yeah, it still feels wrong for me to say it. And it's sort of trying to co-opt lots of different, very disparate communities under a social justice movement rather than what it originally was, right?
And I don't care what people call themselves or what they do, but I think when you're asking other people to change their minds, when you're coercing them and telling them that if they don't behave the way you do, agree with you, that they're wrong, evil, and fascist, I think you're going to lose a lot of support when that starts happening. Now, I think the drag queen movement's great, but I think if you start calling, say, for example, the DEI community within the gay community, this sort of queer community, started saying, just for an example, and this happened in your parliament here, that the black drag queen that helped lead the Stonewall riots was trans. Now, that person was not trans. That person was a drag queen. That person was not a person of color trans. That was a black drag queen. And if you called that person while he was still alive a trans, he would have beat the crap out of you. So that's not how he identified himself. That's not how anyone then identified him. And there's no point trying to rewrite history to suit whatever cause.
So you think there's been a degree of co-opting in the same way that using the word queer to bring in bigger communities of people, that's happened with other languages.
It's homophobic. It's pure homophobia. Gay men have been hurled about, used as weapons before, and now within our own quote-unquote community, we're being used in the same way. And we've been here, and we'll survive. And I think the language will change again when people become a bit more sensible and practical. I think in the meantime, there's danger, I think, of the LGBT community imploding. It's probably like the US in a way. It's too much. It's too big. It's too extreme. It's too far. It's too loud.
So we're going to see a gay Brexit from within.
Yes, because some gay people who are my age, I guess, maybe younger, we feel like we've won. We've won legally. Look, there may be gay bashing going on at certain points. There may be homophobic behavior. You're never going to get rid of that. But legally, in this country, we are equal now. So, like any other, like so many political movements, when they've run out of enemies, they start, they become carnivores. They start eating their young. They start eating each other. They start making each other within that own community an enemy. Politically, we don't have them within Western Europe, within the US. This is why I get so frustrated about, the Middle East. It's like, say what you will about Israel. I've worked there. That says everything. I've worked there. My husband and I, our marriage is legal there. We feel safe there, right? So I just feel like, choose your enemies. And right now, at least in the UK, I don't think we have that many, if any,
I mean, this might be a frivolous point I'm making here, but I was thinking about believe it or not, a bit of a scene queen back in the mid noughties, because I used to go out.
Believe that.
Yeah, well, I because we used to go out. I used to gig, but then I would still want to go out dancing and stuff. And obviously, all the gay clubs started later. So me and my wife. It now sounds like I'm protesting a bit too much. Me and my wife, me and Mrs. We used to go out, but even then, there was like lads that were around my age that their coming out stories were still stressful, and like it was still difficult for them integrated. But I have noticed that like, coming out is less of an issue, and a lot of those clubs aren't open in Vauxhall anymore because the need to get
they don't need to be.
Yeah. So I guess the point is like I think like modern gays aren't as cool. But my favourite gays are 80s gays. I mean, is this just the coolest gays ever? Still up against serious prejudice. Then like HIV come out. Definitely, are they the goats of gays? 80s gays?
Well, I have to say, HIV really galvanized the community. That's when I was coming out, and it was very exciting living in San Francisco in the late 80s, early 90s. I mean, arguably, it was very depressing also because a lot of my friends died. A lot of artists I work with are now dead. But the political movement and the social mores and the way we supported and looked after each other, it felt like there was a war on that we were fighting, and we eventually won. But that's the point. We won. So now enjoy your spoils. Again, there's always going to be people who it's difficult to come out. I mean, from whatever community they're from. It has very little to do with class as well.
But then this is now me maybe trying to put the woke argument forward, and this is slightly ironic I've ended up here. But I guess they say, but morally having won that, you then have to take that set of ideals and then go and do the same for other communities. But that's, I don't know, slightly presumptuous that you feel that that's something you have to do personally.
Listen, the LGBT community has always been uncomfortable initiating the trans community, or as long as I've been an adult, there's been conversation among especially gay women about admission of the trans community. Because really, in the 90s when I was helping a very small role, helping organize the Gay and Lesbian Pride Parade in San Francisco, the Dykes on Bikes didn't want trans riders. They didn't want them. Dykes were like, look, we're women. That's a guy.
But just double check. Dykes on Bikes, is that an actual name of a group or is that?
It is. Yeah.
Oh,
they would lead. No,
God
Dykes on Bikes. Yeah. No, they lead the Pride Parade. They have for decades. Right, especially after AIDS, when a lot of gay men died, and the Dykes were organizing the event. And it's a great opening. Everybody loves the Dykes on Bikes. You know, I mean, really, the Pride Parade's for families now anyway, and people love it. The kids love it. Everybody loves it. Who doesn't love a big, robust woman on a motorcycle with a girlfriend hanging off her? It's hot. It's fantastic.
Love it. Great name. It rhymes.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah. We all love it. But some trans people wanted to get involved with that, and the lesbians were like, no, they're not gay women. Now, we can have that conversation separately. But what I'm saying is the gay community has always, as long as I can remember, for the last 50 years, let's say, been woke. I started as a comic in a gay and lesbian vegan cafe. You can imagine the stress and the tension I was under. The woman who ran it was a gay woman. If I joked even remotely about having an unsafe sexual experience, she would start crying in the back of the club, screaming, stop, don't. I mean, it was much worse than that. So I'm aware of the boundaries of live performance in an uptight, woke audience. I know what that is.
It's not the first time it's happened, right?
Fuck it, it's always happened. It's always been an element of being an LGBT performer.